every day from dawn to dusk, late into the night and then early the next morning. Work was built into creation and we've become very good at it. In fact, if we aren't dominating at every possible moment, we're failing. Produce, reproduce, buy more, work more, so one day when I'm old, I can finally rest. But why? In the Old Testament, the Sabbath is established by God as a day for rest and worship, not only in Genesis when God himself rests on the seventh day, but God reiterates the importance of the Sabbath when he carves it into stone as the fourth commandment. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. In his book, Garden City, John Mark Comer talks about how we're created to work. But he also emphasizes the importance of rest, stating, Sabbath is an expression of faith that there is a creator and he's good. We are his creation. This is his world. We live under his roof, drink his water, eat his food, breathe his oxygen. So on the Sabbath, we don't just take a day off from work, we take a day off from toil. We give him all our fear and anxiety and stress and worry. We let go. We stop ruling and subduing, and we just be. We remember our place in the universe, so that we never forget there is a God, and I'm not him.
So my family actually has a long history with the Sabbath. My parents were missionaries, and I grew up down in Costa Rica, which, for those of you who don't know, is a little country between Nicaragua and Panama. It's not Puerto Rico. People get that mixed up a lot. By the time I came around, my parents had started practicing a lot of the Old Testament feasts and celebrations and stuff. The two ones that I remember the most are Hanukkah and Passover. My parents have always kind of practiced a form of Sabbath. In the beginning, it was very legalistic. It was very much like, here's a list of things you're not allowed to do, and it was basically all the fun things you weren't allowed to do. So I hated Sabbath as a kid. We basically just had to sit around the house and not do anything and read our Bible, and it was torture. So it was basically my least favorite day of the week. That only lasted for a few years though, where it was that hardcore legalistic, and then my parents started slowly sort of understanding what the Sabbath was meant for, that it was something created for man, that if it's not adding to you or building you up or restful, then it's not really benefiting you. And they left a lot of the legalism behind and became a little bit more New Testament minded. Throughout my teens, Sabbath was more kind of like just hang out with the family. We still had, a few things we weren't allowed to do, but for the most part it was like, just kind of relax. And then into adulthood, basically as soon as I was old enough, I joined the workforce. I think I was like 17 when I got my first job, and I basically abandoned the Sabbath, which is a bad thing because it's there for a reason. But when you're that young, you think like, oh, I have all the energy in the world, I can do whatever. And I was very, very keen on making as much money as possible. So I ended up getting on with this big company up north. I worked 10 hours a day there for like 6 days a week, basically for 3 years. And then I would go home and, remodel my apartment and do stuff like that. And it was just, it became torture. And I was making a lot of money, but it wasn't worth it. So eventually I moved to Arkansas, I think 5 months ago now. Started practicing the Sabbath again because I moved in with my parents. One thing that I learned in Garden City that was very insightful is that the Sabbath doesn't look the same for everybody, and it doesn't have to.
Well, first of all, rest doesn't mean simply doing nothing. Although sometimes doing nothing is restful. In Garden City, Comer talks about how he loves to run. He explains that running is life-giving to him and helps him relax. It's restful. Just like work, when done right, is an act of worship, the same is true with rest. You can and should rest as an act of worship to God. So, when learning how to rest, ask yourself, is this life-giving and is this worship? For me, rest looks like messing around in the garage, tinkering with cars or other little projects. I sometimes go sailing because that makes me feel closest to God, but depending on the day, this can be more work than rest, so I don't do it all that much. I also love to play piano. This is life-giving to me and is one of my closest forms of worship. But how I rest has nothing to do with how you should rest. It takes practice and active seeking to learn how to Shabbat. So put away your phone, unplug from social media, take a break from buying more stuff, and try to live in the moment. And ironically, make an effort to practice the Sabbath. You'll be happy you did.